Welcome to our Workday Basics 200. Can I have a show of hands? And Tony, if you'll check online if people are raising their virtual hand. Who's here for their first workshop? Who has not attended a workshop before? Hey, you don't have to be shy. We're all friends here. It's cool. That's awesome. Welcome. If you have raise your hand if you've never been to an insiders meeting. Okay, about the same number. Okay, well, welcome. We're super excited to have you. I think everybody who didn't raise their hand is probably tired of seeing my face, because I help introduce these meetings. We are so glad to have you. There will be a QR code at the end of this session where we can get your feedback. I'd love to hear like who invited you or how you heard about this meeting, because we want to spread the awareness of these Workday workshops with those around campus who may need more help, which right now is like everyone, right? It's a brand new system. We're all getting our Workday sea legs. And so we want to make sure we're sharing this. So just a little background about these meetings. We've been hosting what we call a Workday Insiders meeting. It's open invitation to anyone on campus, not any particular audience. We started it with a group called the Change Champion Network that was pretty regularly involved over the course of the program for the last 3 years or so. And we've been slowly adding to that invite list. And so if you would like to be included in those, come to those. They are once a month. The next one is on the 30th, I believe. You can go to our website, workday.byu.edu. Our presenter is going to show that website today, and he can show you where that is. There's an Insiders tab open to everyone. It'll tell you when the next meetings are, what the upcoming agenda is. You'll see recordings from last meetings. They include tips and tricks and different presentations on things you guys use all the time, whether that's expense reports, spend authorizations, delegation, all the things. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that today in our Workday Basics 200. There was a Workday Basics 101 about 2 months ago. And so that's a good refresher. But if you know people in your area who are also struggling, maybe they couldn't make it today, feel free to show them that website, check out the recordings, either today's or the first one. So our Workday Insiders is a monthly meeting that we have continuing through September right now. We'll kind of see if we need to continue at that point. And then we also have these workshops that we're doing over the course of the summer. This is our 6th workshop. Each one has a specific topic. Our basics is kind of a broad Workday overview, but our other workshops have had very specific topics like reporting, like expense management, like recruiting, things that may interest you. And we always include resources that are available to you all the time in there. We'll show you the website. We'll show you what's in Workday, who to reach out to for help, how to create cases, all that fun stuff. So if there are people around you who are like, I can't figure this out, there is help. We're trying to reach out to those people, and please feel free to join our insiders and spread that message that there's a place that they can come and get their questions answered. So welcome. We are going to have an opening prayer by Tony Gunn, our communications manager. And then I'll introduce our speaker.
Heavenly Father, we're thankful for this nice day. We're grateful for the opportunity we have to meet, and grateful we work at this university. We're thankful for all we have and for wonderful students who are here, and we pray that we can serve them well. We pray that we can learn these processes and the tools that we have and use them to the best of the ability. We pray that we can feel confident and know that thou art with us, and please help us to serve those who are in need, and bless us that we can be of aid to those who are seeking. Bless us that we can radiate the light of thy Son. We love thee. We ask for these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Okay, thanks, Tony. I just realized I didn't introduce myself because now we have hands of people who've never been here. My name is Lindsay May. I am the update management lead for Enterprise Solutions, that little tag there at the bottom on the screen. That is a new-ish department on campus, a refurbished department, I should say. And we have just kind of been rolled into the OIT family. So we are part of OIT, however, it's new. And so we are excited to be supporting Workday and campus in their Workday journeys from here on out. So that's myself. Today we're going to have Steve Mott, who is our training specialist, manager, all the things, super great. And he is really the man behind the scenes when it comes to training for Workday that you can find in the Workday system. So if you haven't checked out the learning app in Workday, all of those trainings that we're developing, that is his handiwork. And so we're really grateful to have him. So he's going to run through some basics in Workday, and hopefully you'll pick up something here. There might be some things that you've heard before, but we'll kind of go a little bit in depth. For this session, normally in our workshops, we're going to cover a certain amount of instruction and hold your questions to the end. This is not that workshop. If you have a question about what Steve is covering, feel free to raise your hand. Because we do have a remote audience, we will bring a microphone to you, so that way we can capture those questions, make sure they get answered, especially for our remote audience. And Tony Gunn will be monitoring the chat for our remote audience at the same time as those questions come up. He'll ask those as well. So hopefully we can kind of get all of those covered at the same time. So feel free to raise your hand. We'll have a runner come bring a microphone to you, and we're going to get started. So without further ado, Steve Mott.
Well, I haven't done anything yet. I don't know why anyone's clapping. All right, well, wonderful. Thank you, Lindsay. Thanks, Tony, for your prayer. And thank you to each of you for being here with us today. Yes, my name is Steve Mott. I am an update management analyst with our new Enterprise Solutions group. I've been with the university for probably about 12 years in different capacities with continuing education, the Center for Teaching and Learning, and then recently with Program Granite, the program that was helping with the implementation of Workday. And now I work with Lindsay and company here with Enterprise Solutions. So here's the family. We are true blue. My wife, despite my daughter's red shirt, don't take it personally. My wife is the director of global programs over at the law school. My daughter in red, contrary to the color, she just was accepted to BYU and will be joining us in the fall. And then my youngest daughter is just starting TempView in the fall as well. It's I think another great Steve or Stevie Nicks, I think, who said that children get older. She also reminded me that I'm getting older too. And so when we're doing this, and when you're looking at your family, and I see pictures, even in presentations like this, I'm like, oh my goodness, they're getting older. So hug your little ones, and we're going to move quickly through today so we don't spend too much of your precious life here in Workday training. Just to show you an agenda, I remember, and the reason I pull this up, my freshman year, I had one of my roommates. I think he was attending a class for almost 2 weeks before he realized it wasn't the class he'd registered for. And I was kind of like, how does that happen? So I bring up this agenda just to make sure you know what this class is about, what we're going to be covering today. This is, like Lindsay mentioned, this is going to be a very casual event. So if you have questions, feel free to raise your hand. We'll get a microphone to you. But we'll cover just a handful of things. What I want you to know as we're going through this is that we have references and resources. So sometimes in a session like this, you may have the habit, or you may feel like the urge to capture everything. You might grab your phone and try to take pictures of all the slides, or what did Steve just do here? Do that step again. I'm happy to repeat those, but we will have references and resources available to guide you through the steps. Really what we're trying to do today is showcase some of these kind of tips and tricks and features a little bit. And if there's something that stands out to you that you think, well, that was pretty cool, I didn't know that, then you'll know, hey, I'm going to make a note of that feature, and you can come back to the resources that I'll show you and see how to do it when you get back to your desk. Okay? So it's very low pressure. You don't have to master anything that we do today. Just look, see if you see something cool, and we'll go from there. First thing we'll talk about is website. We'll talk about sandbox if you haven't seen that yet. Navigation. We'll talk about search, business processes, and how to see where things stand in a business process. We'll talk a little bit about reporting, delegation, and then how to get help. So these are kind of the topics that we're covering. If at any point you hear what you came to hear and you're done, you don't have to feel free to take off if you need to. All right, so without further ado, let's talk a little bit about the website. By show of hands, has anyone not been to our website before, workday.byu.edu? Is that new to anybody? Okay, so that's great, actually. That is kind of home base between Workday and this website. Those are the two resources that we try to point people to, is obviously the Workday system itself, but workday.byu.edu. And I want to take you just on a quick tour of Workday of this website before we get into some of these other tips, just so you can come back and find this in the future. So this is workday.byu.edu. And right when you're in here, you may notice this menu that appears at the top. The navigation might vary depending on your roles. So if you're a member of the service delivery model, if you're a business partner or something like that, you may see this tab, whereas others may not. Don't worry about that. But you'll just see this navigation at the top. There's a button quickly to log into Workday. So anytime you need to get into Workday, you can go to workday.byu.edu, tongue twister, and log in through this portal. Further below, we'll touch on these items here in a second, but just further below, you'll see these workshops. As we hold these, the recordings, the slides, even the resources that we talk about today will be linked to right here on the front page for you. So when you get back, look for those announcements, and then of course some articles and just archived items that may appear at the bottom. Up here at the top, there's this Get Started link. This will take you, if you've never been to Workday or if you have a coworker who's just getting started, this is a great resource that can kind of tell them why Workday, what is that all about? And down below, there's actually a button that will take you, I'll just click this really quickly. Will actually take you to a Get Started course that will cover a lot of the basic things that we'll touch on today, but it's just a nice opportunity to be able to get a primer as far as Workday is concerned. Let's close that. Okay. Back on the main hub too, there's an employee hub. Depending on your role, there are just some descriptive resources here that we'll talk through. If I click on staff, for instance, it talks to me a little bit about how Workday is involved in some of these common staff items, benefits, purchasing a travel, talent, and things like this. So this is kind of another general resource to orient folks in terms of the kinds of things that take place within Workday. Finally, we've got the Help Center. We're going to talk at length about the Help Center, but this kind of introduces, I think, our next topic, any questions though, before I move forward on the website? The only other call out that I'd make here is, like Lindsay mentioned, there's an insiders page. This is open to everyone, but this includes also those sessions that you may be interested in joining and kind of what the agenda will be for the meeting. So you can determine ahead of time if that's something that may be of interest to you. Many of you had in the past, if you've been in Workday now throughout this year, since it went live in January, you might have used the website to access job aids or resources that would take you step by step. This is just a reminder, as of a few weeks ago, we actually moved the PDFs that existed here as job aids. We moved them out of the website and actually directly into Workday. So if you come to this, we'll leave this up for a little while just to catch anybody who was like, wait, where'd my job aids go? You can come back to this, click on the job aids and video walkthroughs, and it will show you how to access those materials directly within Workday. And we're going to show that here in a second too. That's just a call out. Then finally on Help Center, you'll see another link to that Get Started. You'll see links to training modules. These will be updated shortly. This was kind of our go live learning. It also is where you'll find learning for university core training, sexual harassment training, all of the compliance training and other things that happened previously on YTrain or train.byu.edu are now found directly in Workday, and this will link you there. Articles, we'll talk about this when we get to the Help Center, but this will link you right to an index of the articles, which are the job aids now. Sandbox and then create a case. We'll talk about these two. So in fact, let's just go ahead and do that. How many of you, as far as Sandbox is concerned, how many of you have never used Sandbox or maybe not even heard of it? Is that new? That's great. So this may be worth the price of admission a little bit here. You can get to Sandbox through this URL, workday.byu.edu/sandbox. Or, like I was showing back here, I'm just on right from our main website. If you click on Help Center, you'll see this option for Sandbox. What the Sandbox is, it's an instance of Workday that's apart from the normal live production version of Workday. It's kind of like its own special isolated version. It contains week-old data because it's refreshed every week. There's the Las Vegas quote that I've heard about Sandbox. What happens in Sandbox stays in Sandbox. So if you think of it in those crude terms, maybe, it's an instance that you can go into, practice. If you're nervous that man, I'm going to mess up, the whole university is going to implode if I click submit. Do I want to do that here? You can go into Sandbox and practice what process you're working through. And whatever you end up doing in there, it's going to get overwritten by the end of the week. So the worst you can do is make things harder for the other people in Sandbox for that week. That's about all that you can do. So I'll show it to you actually, just so we can see it together. In fact, most of the demos that we'll show today, I'm actually going to demo in Sandbox. So I can show you why it's kind of useful. So I log in just like I would do with Workday proper. And you'll see the difference here is at the top, you'll see that there's this orange bar. That'll help you know whether or not are you in the live version or are you in the Sandbox version before you get started. So if there's something you want to practice, the Sandbox is a great place to do that. And you'll see it looks just like Workday. The only difference is I'm looking over here, and what caught my eye is that I've got 9 tasks in my inbox. Fortunately, those were tasks from last week. They're already done. So this is all old data. So as you get in there, you might say, wait a minute, why is this report showing up again? I already did that last week. It's because it's old data. Okay. But this is just a resource. Any questions on Sandbox? Yeah, there's a question over here.
Students, but I want to see, oh, I'm sorry.
No.
I want to see what the students see. Can I assume the role of the student in the Sandbox so then I can be like, oh, this is what they're actually getting?
That would be really cool. Now we're talking like super cool features. Right now, no. They do have proxying that exists for like system administrators implementing Workday, but as far as like end users, no, there isn't a way. So what typically I would do with my students or with others that were working with me is just when we have questions like that, I'll have them log in on their account and I'll just kind of have them walk me through a question or other things directly from their account. Yes, Sandbox is open to all Workday. Anyone who can access and has a Workday account, they can access Sandbox. Yep. Any other questions on Sandbox? Cool. So this is, again, just, I hope you'll make use of this. It's definitely been useful for us. You can imagine even like when we're preparing training, it gets me nervous sometimes walking around or digging into live processes and live tasks. So this is a good resource where I can see essentially the same information, but without impacting campus. Okay. So that is Sandbox. Let's just jump into navigation and notifications. We're going to hit just a few items that you may be familiar with, you may not. If it's something you haven't seen before, gasp in excitement and enjoy. But if you've seen it, this might be a review for some of you. A couple of quick items. I just wanted to talk briefly about the menu. Most of you are probably familiar with the menu, but I wanted to draw attention to just a couple of items in case you didn't get bold and start clicking around, I'll do the clicking for you and just show you what some of these things do. So from your menu, depending on your role and your profile, you may see different things. Obviously, you're not gonna maybe see some of the learning admin or other things that I've got here on the menu. But you'll see things kind of organized by these bolded headings. And these can all be collapsed and expanded and things like that. Down at the bottom, you'll see these buttons. There's one for add, there's one for edit. If I click on add, that's what allows me to add additional items to the menu. We've talked about in the future, we'd like to be able to compile, maybe with the help of some of the users who have found useful things, compile what some of the more useful items that maybe you don't by default have on your menu that would be worth searching for. The one downside is that there's not a master index. Like as I clicked add here, so let me go back. And if I was just down here at the bottom and I click add, it has a few that it's recommended to me. And I don't know what to make of it telling me, hey, go look at the jobs hub. That has me nervous. But it will recommend a few different items, but otherwise I'd have to know what item I'm looking for. So maybe if a coworker has something that I'm like, well, wait a minute, how do you have access to that? One aspect may be that it's just a function of getting the thing added to my menu. The other one may be, of course, that they have a different security role than I do, and they have access to some apps that I don't have access to. But this is where you would add things like that. If I go to edit back here on the main screen, and many of you have probably done this, I can organize some of these items. If there were optional items, I can remove them if I don't use them very often. Some of these items are here by default and can't be removed, but they can be dragged, and I can actually move things around and reorganize things. If I'm particularly obsessive, like apparently I am, I might have organized this alphabetically. You could organize this by length of the words if you're really obsessed. But this is just an area where you can organize things and then save your changes when you're done, and it will rearrange your menu for you. We got a couple questions here. That different than shortcuts? I'll talk about shortcuts here in just 1 second. So he's asking how that's different than shortcuts, the menu. I'll show you in just a second.
So with the bolded sections, can you reorder those?
So you cannot. These are configured on the back, but if you have suggestions or feedback, you're welcome to submit that through case for consideration.
So like if I
It's
put
delivered.
the finance dashboard to be at the top, I can ask for that.
Yeah, most of these, you'll see the headings are kind of preset here. And it looks like what they are, they're delivered alphabetically, the headings are. So you can see configurations first, and then down below, people support, personal, team. So the headings are already served alphabetically. Within the headings, you'll have options to move things up to the top. I'm going to show you here in shortcuts, if there's still too many things, or if there are things you use more than others, let me show you another approach too. Okay, so back here on the menu, the other option that was brought up here is shortcuts. Shortcuts, you can have up to 10 items here in shortcuts, and I can edit these as well. Like right here, you can see that I'm looking at help article performance. This is something that I'm looking at as an administrator with the training side of things to see how are we doing with the articles we're delivering. Are they helpful and things? And so I kind of use that often. So I've just added this help article performance report to my shortcuts. I can add additional shortcuts up to a max of 10. So if there were some item here, let's go back to the menu. And let's say, for instance, maybe within absence, I request vacation a lot. I can click on I can search for absence and find like request absence or manage an absence. I can add that item to my menu and then go back. And now you can see within shortcuts, it's right where I want it. And if I edit this, I can actually move to your question. I could move these, around in whatever order I want. So if I've got up to 10 items that that's what I use all the time, and the menu's even more than I typically use, I can actually save my changes here. And then when I come back to menu, right, I can just go right to the shortcuts bar and go just to the things I'm interested in. Does that make sense? So pretty cool. The other item here is you'll notice this saved. This is a catch-all for both the menu and shortcuts, as well as something I'm about to show you here in just a second. But if I click on this, and I'll go ahead and click on it. Again, I'm bold. I'm in Sandbox. The world's my oyster. So I went ahead and clicked on it. And you can see those shortcuts that we just talked about. This is almost like a dashboard that just shows them to me, allows me to add or edit shortcuts all from one spot. But it also talks to me about favorites. So Steve, what are favorites, man? We've got a menu, we've got shortcuts, favorites now. Favorites is just another venue or place where you can bring some of your common items. In particular, what I like favorites for is reports that I use all the time, or business objects that I often refer to. And let me show you what I mean. Favorites are different in that they're actually buried. This is where I can administer and kind of manage them. And again, we'll have help articles for this, by the way, everybody. So we'll show you how to do this later. But on the main page, you actually get to favorites by going to your profile picture. And you click on that and you'll see some options. We're going to talk about a couple of these here in a second. But one of those is the favorites page. And I can click on favorites. And what this does is it shows me if I have a report that I keep referencing, if there's some sort of dashboard that I keep referencing, I can actually add those, which I'll show how to do that here in a second. But I'll add them and then I can find all of those custom reports here. I'll also see in this menu shared custom reports. These are reports that have been shared with me. So I'll see a list, and this is, you can see, I mean, the number here, it's what, 472. So I have a bunch that have been shared with me. As others share reports with you, this is where you can see all of your shared reports in one spot. But I like this favorite custom reports because it allows me to get to reports that I use all the time and save them all in one spot right within Workday. So that's what the favorites is. The other thing that favorites can do, and I'm going to show you the most rudimentary example. Let me just, for instance, here's my worker profile. Wow, you learn everything about me here. Let's say that I'm on some report or I'm on a hub or I'm on a dashboard. If you've been in Workday, you'll see a lot of these little blue links, right? There's things. These are called business objects. That's one of the advantages. Oh, we've got a question. Please, actually, I'm sorry, I missed you. I need to pan better.
Thank you. Sorry, I had a question on the custom reports.
Uh-huh.
Are you referring to reports that we set up and save as filters, or is this something else?
This is any custom reports just means if I, like in this case, let me go back. Well, here, and actually I'll show you two things at once. So I'll show you what you're talking about, but let's say that I hovered over one of these business objects. What I was going to show is I can click on that little, we call it like the blue Twinkie because it kind of looks like the bottom of a Twinkie. But this related actions button, it will pop up when you hover over one of these blue links. Do you see how that does that? That will show me a little menu button. If I click that, it'll give me a series of different kinds of actions that I can take on that object. One of them is this favorite. And I can click add. And it'll say, okay, you want to add this supervisory organization to your favorites? I'm like, yes. And I hit okay, and boom, there's it brought it up for me. This is the organization that we're talking about. But now if I came back here and went to favorites, you'll see my favorite business objects. It created a new tab for me, and it's got that enterprise solution soup org, that supervisory organization, just saved. That was a really random example. I'm not sure you bookmark like a soup org, but you could. So if there are certain items or objects that you typically click on, this could even be a person. Like I could go back in here and click on like, and then we'll get to your question here in a second. But I could click on like my manager, Lindsay. I could hover over, and this wouldn't be far off base if I said that Lindsay's a favorite, but I could go ahead and add her contact as a favorite, because I'm always asking Lindsay questions. It brings up her profile as well, so I can get her contact info. But now if I come back here to favorites, you can see that Lindsay's, this is not objectifying Lindsay, though it says favorite business objects. This is just, I'm able to link to any of those items and save it in one place. So it's just a helpful thing. Back to your custom reports question. This report is just the BYU My Team's time report. It was a report that I found where I could review. In fact, let me pull it up. BYU My Team's time. I hit OK, and I've got a student on here who's in my soup org, and it shows her check-in status, whether she's clocked in or out, how many in-out hours during this pay period that I just designated, project hours, and things like this. We're going to talk about reports here in a second. But it was just a quick way that without me having to search for that report again, I had added that report as a favorite. Basically, I went back here, back to favorites, said manage my favorites, and I just added to custom reports. I added that report that I was looking for.
So that's more of a favorite spot, not necessarily a customized report.
Yeah, like it's not where you're generating a custom report necessarily, but once you've generated a report that you want to come back to with a certain configuration, that's how you get back to it. Easy. That makes sense? Any other questions on this, on favorites? Okay. So again, you can play with this and you won't hurt anybody, but between the menu, those shortcuts, and then back over here, favorites, it's just a way to save all of those kinds of things that you use regularly. People have often asked us, well, you know, I finally found what I was looking for. How am I going to get back to this spot again? Well, if you find something that's useful, or if your coworker has something that they recommend to you that you're like, wait a minute, that's a great report. This is a great way to stow those favorites so that you can always get back to them. Okay. Next thing on navigation, I wanted to talk to you about notifications. There is an article actually about this. So I just want to point this out briefly, just to get your head thinking about this. We'll talk about, but there's a managed notifications article. We'll link to this for you on the other resource, again, after this session. But if I were to click on this, it's going to walk me through basically everything I'm about to kind of tell you and show you on how to manage notifications. But what I would do is if I want to change my notifications, either the emails that I'm getting from Workday, or if I want to change my app notifications that I'm getting through my smartphone, I would come here to my profile. Again, I click on my image. I'd go down to this My Account option, and there's a Change Preferences. It may take a second to load. There it goes. So under Change Preferences, this is where I can make a few different options. You know, if one of you is practicing your Spanish, I suppose you could come in here and change your display language and things like that. But down below, kind of midway down the page, there's this notifications section. And in the notifications section, you've got your kind of method of communication. Right now, you'll see pop-up notifications. That's not something that's configured, but these two here, email and mobile push notifications, you can change the frequency and even mute some of the items that you're getting. So if you find yourself getting a ton of reminders about things that aren't useful to you, this is a space where you can go and adjust the frequency of those notifications. So you'll notice here, these are organized by different types of notifications. For instance, this one at the top is business processes. And you'll notice the first one here is approvals. If I'm getting approvals and my phone's or my email box is blowing up because I'm getting a million approvals and I'm checking my approvals every day, maybe that's not super helpful. So I can actually click on this field and you see how instead of immediately, I can select daily to change that notification frequency so that it's not as invasive maybe. Otherwise, for me, I leave them on because typically I'm like, if there's an approval that comes my way, I want to know what it is so I can act on it. But you can do this with various things, delegation, tasks, to-dos. And then there are different types, right? There's HCM and I-9 notifications. There are help. If you're a case solver on campus, or if you do case, there are things you can do to change that too.
Just a quick question about the delegation notifications. If I am like an office manager and I assist multiple people, is the delegation so that I don't get notifications when they do something, or they don't get notifications when I do something on their behalf? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I see what you're saying. So you're saying, is that talking about notifications as the delegate or the person delegating?
Exactly.
That's a good question. I haven't tested that directly. I would assume that it has to do with whatever that notification would be. Like if I would typically get a notification delegating something and I'm being told, hey, so-and-so just did this for me, it would probably impact those delegation notifications. Whereas if I'm the one that's doing the delegated work, I'm the one that's been delegated to, those notifications are probably any notifications that pertain to my involvement in the delegation.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. So most of these, you'll see for me, I leave them on. I kind of find them helpful. But if there's a certain area of notification that is just, it's not relevant to you or otherwise, you can change them. Most of these, like for job alerts, for instance, they'll have some sort of immediate, but there are other items that like candidate home account deactivated. There may be something really specific. I don't know. You'd have to look at yours to see what options are there. If there's something specific that you don't need, there's a likelihood too that you'll see a mute option as well. So usually the three options that exist are immediate, daily, or mute. And there are some items that unfortunately or fortunately you can't mute because they're intended to alert you. If you mute and never know that you're getting an approval request, that approval will never get done. Okay, so this is a place to adjust all those notifications. Any other questions on notifications? Yeah, up here up front, Michelle.
This is kind of a dumb question.
I like it.
When Workday first came online, one of the guys we work with said that this is going to be his new work wife. Like we're on Workday every day. We're looking at our notifications and our tasks and everything. So I guess my question is like, what's the point of all these notifications when we're already on Workday every day? And we see the little, number up on the top,
Right.
what is it is it overkill? Are people liking that? Do they feel like it's overkill?
This is a great question. There's a couple things. So what she's referring to is, hey, and not everyone's an A student, by the way, Michelle. So just keep in mind, for those that are sitting, notice where she's sitting in this auditorium, by the way. So you'll notice what she's mentioning is, well, why do I need to get a push notification to my email or my app if I'm already in Workday when I sign in the morning and I come into work and I can see, right, these little highlighted numbers. What's that? Yeah, for folks who live on Workday, it's probably, you're going to be one of the ones I'm talking about here who's going to probably go into notifications and adjust them. But there are lots of folks whose job doesn't take them into Workday much of the day. And so for those, they feel like in order to communicate with campus, imagine I'm a faculty member who rarely gets approvals, but all of a sudden I get some notification about a TA hire that I'm doing. In that process, I would want to have somebody telling me kind of what's coming next, because I may not intuit that on my own because it's not something I do every day. So just keep in mind, that's why the customization's nice, is because you can kind of tailor it to your preferences, but it's also available there if you're rarely in Workday and you want to be alerted to know when you need to get into Workday. This is a great way to make sure that you're that you're caught up with those things. Is that okay? Yeah, Tony.
Really quick, could you just show one more time? The question is, how do you stow a favorite? Can you show that one more time?
Yeah, that's a great question. And to those that are asking online, we'll make sure again that we'll have a reference for this. So there'll be a linked resource later from the Workday website that'll explain this. But let me just show you one more time. with favorites, I can go, there's a couple ways I can do it. One of them is I can go into favorites, manage them, and then search for and add the thing that that I want to save to my favorites. The other way that I showed was with certain business objects or reports, I can actually, and the example I used just because it was easy, but you'll see this related actions button next to a business object, and I'm even doing this on the favorites page itself, but I could do this from anywhere. If I hover over a person or a business object, I could click on that little related actions button. And you can see down below here, there's a favorite option. In this case, since I'm on favorites, it's asking me, well, do you want to remove Lindsay? I don't. Lindsay's a perpetual favorite. I'm never going to remove her again. But if I wanted to, I can adjust the items here by doing that. Or, and in the case that I didn't have that, it would show add. So that's one way to add a favorite. The other option is, as I was mentioning, is just going to manage favorite and finding it. And you'll see Lindsay's there too. I can remove any of these that I've previously added, or I can click on the field itself and find the thing that I want to add to my favorites. Okay. Great questions. Any other questions on these that we've covered so far with notifications or anything? We're cruising. All right, let's jump then to another tip. This is just more of a heads up than it is like, hey, check this out. In the future, one of the things that is being worked on is that more and more dashboards or hubs are being created. What I mean by that is Workday is kind of nice because it's just a lot of live data, right? There's just data that exists on tons of different things in finance, HR, and all of these things. In the future going forward, there'll be more and more opportunities where Central HR and some of the others are producing hubs with common items that a certain role might want to use on a regular basis. So as opposed to having a bunch of disparate, kind of isolated, distinct objects that you go and find and open up, they're trying to compile more and more of that information or more of those tools or tasks into one view or dashboard. And this will help with reporting in the future, accessing certain reports, but it'll also help with getting to certain applications that you might use all the time, depending on your role. So one example of this that's in development right now, that's nearing deployment, is called the Manager Toolkit. And frankly, if you guys go into Sandbox right now, you'll see this option. So you can take a look early before it goes into the live instance. But all I did was I just clicked again on Menu, and then down under this configuration heading that I've got, I see this Manager Toolkit, and I click this. And we are not going to go into this today. I'm only bringing it to your attention that this is one of the cool things coming in Workday is more of these kinds of all-encompassing or all-inclusive views or dashboards that contain a variety of functions related to the role. In this case, manager. So as a manager, I could see my team, I can see kind of their status. I might see time off and time off balances, maybe work anniversaries. There are different tabs for different things. Time, I can see manager tasks and reports if I clicked on this. You can experiment and play around with this. I just wanted to draw your attention that that's something that's coming.
So if a person doesn't have any positions under them, will they not see the manager toolkit?
That's right. So these will be custom. So there's an HR page. Like if you're a business partner, there's a business partner hub that's been developed that contains common business partner tasks. This one's for managers. So if you have folks that report to you, you'll see this. This will show up by default to you when it goes live. And it will be kind of a one-stop place to access common manager tasks and information. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention. I don't want to muddy the water, but I wanted to just say, this is one of the things, these hubs or dashboards are things that are coming to help collect some of the distinct things that you may do in your role and bring them together. So if you haven't already saved a bunch of things to favorites or shortcuts, it's possible that in the future, many of those functions will come together in one of these dashboards or hubs.
Just a side note that when this does deploy, which we're hoping is in the next couple of weeks, we will hold trainings for this dashboard because this one affects about 5,000 people on campus who have any direct reports, whether that's students, staff, anyone. They'll have information populated on this on this dashboard, and it'll be really useful.
Great call out. So if this specific dashboard is of interest to you, we will be having training to kind of go over the specifics of how to get into it, what to do, all that kind of good stuff. But in the meantime, you guys have access to Sandbox. You're welcome to take a peek and click around and kind of get a feel for maybe what's to come. It's like free preview. Okay, let's jump ahead then. Let's move on. Let's see, what do we got next? Search. Awesome. So let's just touch on a couple of items that may help you as you're doing search. Obviously, if you've been in Workday, I'm sure you've noticed the big search bar at the top. I just wanted to bring a couple of items to your attention that maybe you didn't know you could do with the search bar. So one of those, for instance, well, let's say that I was, like I did earlier, I was searching for notifications. One thing I want to bring to your attention is just the fact I don't have to immediately hit enter. That's just one little tip. If you haven't noticed that already, if you start to type things, it'll start to auto-populate some common items that are tied to that search before you've even hit enter. So one thing I've noticed is just as I start to search for something, let's say I'm looking for expense reports and I start to type in something, before I've even hit enter, I'm like, yeah, actually, that's what I was looking for. I want to create an expense report. This will populate without me even having to load the full search page. So that's just a quick tip. But let's say that I went ahead and I'm like, well, I just want to see what's regarding, what do they have with expense? Your view when you hit enter may be different than this. Yours may have defaulted. Do you see this toggle at the top? Simplified search. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think it's defaulted to on. So chances are if you searched for expense right now, unless you change something, your search probably looks like this, right? And all I wanted to show you is just that I can click that toggle if I want a little bit more robust view, if I want my filters down the side, which I'm going to show you here in a second, or things like that. I might want to disable that just to see everything all on one page versus maybe this more streamlined or condensed version of it. So that's just one item. The other thing I wanted to draw your attention to is these search filters. If you haven't used those, sometimes you're like, wow, expense brings up, I mean, what a privilege for Tavita to be known as the expense czar of BYU. But right now, my settings are such that people come first, which there's something philosophical about that. And then after I show kind of tasks and reports and articles, but if I wanted to, I could filter. If I'm looking for an article to help me fill out my expense report, I might come and click on this filter to filter to articles, and then scroll down and try to find the item that is related to that. And you'll notice it's only now showing me articles. It's not showing me those other types of search results. Okay, so that's one nice thing. These filters will help you. And again, if I don't have simplified search enabled, those filters are shown here on the side. So I can quickly, select, I want to see what courses are on this, or I want to see what articles, or I'm actually looking for the expense report task. I can select those categories here. There are more categories buried under here. So if there was something really specific that I was looking for, maybe I find it there. And if I want to change what shows here, this is the other cool thing that I wanted to show you today, was I can come down here to configure search. And this is persistent, by the way, so you don't have to keep doing this every time you come in. If you have a favorite approach, you can save it. But I come to configure search, and you'll see those common categories that appear at the top, those are right here, and I can move them out, right? I could drag, if I don't want to see courses tied to it, I say save, and you'll notice that's gone on both kinds of search. Back on simplified, it's also, right? Learning's not there anymore. Now I could always click on the category and go to learning, but it doesn't have to appear every time I search if I don't want to see those results. Okay. The other thing that configuring your search can do is you can rearrange things. If I decide that no, people don't come first. If I say, you know what, I want to get right to the task first, I can reorder that so that tasks now comes before, save it. And now you can see my search shows these items first, and I don't have to scroll past Tavita and others to get to that result. Yes.
Sorry, I ask a lot of questions.
This is awesome.
Okay, when you choose people first,
Hmm?
is there a way then to like maybe have a subcategory of people in your, I can't think of the word I want, business organization?
Like in your supervisory organization
Yeah,
or something?
how many
like that?
Dallin Andersons there are in this university, and we only have one working for us, but every time I search for him, I get 4 or 5 before I get to my Dallin Anderson.
So there isn't, I believe that there is some machine learning involved in the search, which allows it gradually, organically begins to move things that it seems like you're accessing more often. It tends to try to bring those to the front. But Michelle, you've brought up an excellent use case for favorites, because you literally could take that person that you're searching for or that you open up their profile all the time, add Travis to your favorites, and now you've always got the right Travis.
Well, it was only because we were trying to hire him as a 3/4, but just generally speaking, it would be easier if, when I'm searching
Yeah.
for someone who works, because we have 300 some students. So if I'm searching for one particular student and there's 5 students at the university who have that name, but only one of them works for us, it would be good. Like, so that's why I asked if there was a way to get, to see people in my business organization.
Well, you bring up okay, let me show you something why I'm doing this. I'm going to search for something really quickly. So again, I'm just backing out. I go to my search bar. If I just hit question mark and enter, it'll bring up search help. This isn't, I don't call this out because it's like so useful and it's going to answer all your questions regarding search. What this is it kind of acts as a master list of search prefixes. And a search prefix is just something that it's away from the search bar that I can narrow down what I'm searching for to find a certain kind of thing. You'll see the examples they give here at the top are things like a worker. Like if I already know I'm searching for a person and I don't want to have it give me 800 results that aren't a person, I can actually type in, like I'm seeing here in this example, I can type in worker, Michaela, for instance, is a student that works with me, and immediately I'm showing Michaela's that are actually workers. It's not bringing up a report about Michaela or something else. So this little search prefix allows me to quickly get to something, and there's a whole bunch. And that's why, Michelle, I was actually bringing this up. I'm curious, I don't know, but I was just going to come down here. Stu, I'm curious if Stu Michaela, if I did that one, no. One of the things that I am recommending to those that are configuring the system is that when I hit this question mark and I was just looking up search prefixes or keywords, ways to narrow this down, you mentioned, Michelle, that you were searching for a specific candidate, that was maybe being hired or something like that. I can narrow my search by candidate as well using these search prefixes. That's easy to identify with this list because, right, it describes next to each item what it's for. Down below, it shows me all the prefixes that are available or have been configured in Workday. Ooh, watch this. Ready? Buckle your seatbelt. Oh my goodness. Oh no, right? There's a ton. And I think these have been configured in particular by HR specialists and others who have a very specific function. And so they create it for themselves or maybe have common shortcuts. Maybe they're consistently looking for a certain account. So they've created like these account shortcuts or other things. The only problem with this page right now is that this side right here on the left is intended to be the description of what that prefix is for. And you can see that's not the case right now. Right now, whoever put these in, they put them in and then just didn't put a description. So it just default to whatever the prefix was. So not super helpful at the moment, but in the future, there'll be some additional prefixes. I'm hoping that we can get a list of common ones to help you narrow your search more effectively so that you can get to the data easier. But I don't know. I looked down there just to see if there was a student option. And so I was like, oh, I wonder what Stu does. It doesn't tell me what it did. So I was in Sandbox. I was like, I'm going to test it.
I'll make one comment.
Please.
Steve kind of touched on this earlier, that the system is learning your preferences, the things that you search most often. Workday is also unveiling, I guess, their newest deployment of AI, which is called Illuminate. When Steve goes to a search, I think it's only in the simplified search, an AI
Oh yeah,
prompt
let me show you that.
will show up.
So if I type expense, you can see right now there's an AI integration here that's called Workday Assistant. And it's like, here's the best match for your ask. Well, so it says, right, for a moment, because it doesn't know. You haven't done this before. But if you started going to expense and each time you searched expense, you went to a certain thing, it's going to over time begin to identify that and bring that up as the first items. Theoretically, that's what we haven't been doing this long enough for us to see the full results.
Yeah, over time, Workday should learn more and more about you and your searches. Your frequent, if you go back to the homepage really fast, your frequent or quick tasks right there, the things you jump to all the time should populate there, and your top apps. So you can see that we test the manager toolkit a lot right now because we're about to deploy it. Anything that you jump to a lot should come here on your homepage. I imagined that would work for students or searches for like people as well, as soon as that Illuminate is deployed, which should be in the next few months.
And Michelle, just so we got closure here and we get to chalk up another win for this session, I just did a search just on a whim. I don't know if you saw, but I searched student Michaela and hit enter. And it brought up just students. Yeah. I was hopeful. So anyway, I don't have all the prefixes. That's another project where there's always something to do to try to improve. But these are the kinds of things we're aware of that we want to make better and better. The whole enterprise solutions team and these centers of expertise, they're all trying to make this better. We're not some third party. Like I mentioned, most of us have been here at BYU forever. We want to make it good. So your feedback, your questions, and these kinds of things are super useful because it doesn't just go into a vacuum and disappear. And we all laugh at it, and throw darts at it and things like this. No, like we read them and try to apply as much as we can. So this will ever be improving and developing, but I just wanted to give you a couple of heads up of things you can play with in search to help you get the information you need a little faster. Also true. We've got one of our resident experts here in Geraldine. You literally could type in an ID up here in the search bar and it'll bring up the person that you're looking for specifically to. So definitely play around with search. There are ways to find the thing, whether the task you're looking for, an article to help you, which we'll show you here in just a second, things like that. Search is a great way to just quickly get to things. And one last little pro tip, again, you don't have to remember this, but let's say that I was always creating an expense report and I always use the search bar to get there. I can literally type in even abbreviations of the thing. Like I'm just typing in CRE-EXP, and you can see the first thing it's showing me is create expense report. So just with that quick prefix, I can get to what I need and click fast to get there. Yeah.
Follow up to what she just said. Do you have to type BYU ID :?
Just type the ID number. And
Okay.
if you type that ID number, it will find the person.
I'm pretty sure I've done that before and didn't work for me, but maybe I don't have that access. Does everyone have that access? All right, I'll
Yeah.
double check when I get
Well,
back.
now you have. I've got mine.
That's a good point, Kathleen. So anything, so if you type in a position number, if you type in
Yeah, so I just
excuse
typed
their
in
business
my
title, job title, anything that describes the person, it's trying to pull up that person that has something like that.
Yeah, so I just tested the ID just as an example. I just typed in my BYU ID here and it found me directly, right? So give it a shot. And if you have questions, feel free to get help. We'll talk about how to do that here in a second, but that's search, okay? Just for time, if you have additional questions, again, we don't want to stymie anybody. Come find us, or we're happy to answer additional questions or show you things. We'll have resources like I mentioned, so that, again, don't panic. We'll try to produce some articles and other things that we will reference a link to, so you can see how to do these things again when you go to do them. Let me show you then. So that's search. One of the other common items that comes up, and actually, yeah, let's talk about business processes. One of the frequent questions that we get is, well, I initiated this thing. I have no idea where it went. I don't know who's got it right now. All I know is it's not done. I didn't get what I requested. And so how do I know where it stands in the process? Has anyone had that question before? Like, where is it? I'm just going to show you really quickly. It won't take a ton of time, but there's actually a way for you to see where something stands in a business process that you're involved in. And to do that, I'm going to actually come up here right next to my profile picture. There's this My Tasks inbox. That's where all of the things that are actionable to you, that's where they flow. They flow into this inbox, so you can kind of see anything that's waiting on you for some process is found here. I click on that, and I can see these purchase orders that exist. But let's say that I'm looking for something, it's not here anymore. I've already taken care of it. I don't have to approve it. There's nothing left for me to do, but I do want to know who's it with right now? Where's the holdup? I can actually click on here, this archive, and I can see from the last 90 days, I can see items that have been added here. Over time. And these are things that were previous tasks that I was involved in. It might have been a time entry approval or something like this. It might be a case that I'm helping with. I mean, you can see there's all sorts of different things on mine, which may or may not reflect at all what it is that you do on campus. But if I were to click on any of these, like a time entry item, this was an approval that had been taking place. Let's say this were an approval that had multiple steps and it had already gone through me. I said yes. And I want to see, where is this getting routed from here? How do I know? I can click on this process subtab here, and it will show me, well, this process is actually very simple. So this may be a bad example, but this one showed me that, well, this process was simply Michaela had to enter her time. It then got routed for approval by manager. You can see the status here in this case is that it's approved. And you can even see the overall status here is that it's showing successfully completed. So both her entering of time and my approval of that time has been done. So this thing's done now. But if it didn't say done, let's say Michaela's like, hey, Steve, I'm not getting, I'm waiting for you to approve my time. She can actually pull this up, look at the process, and see the status will show here. Instead of approved, it would show in progress. And in fact, it would show my name right next to it. Who's the person that it's in progress with? And they can actually click on this. In my case, they could click on the person and scroll down and like get their contact information and actually reach out to them. Why is this taking 2 weeks? So it's a nice way to be able to follow the flow of a process without it just disappearing into the void. And again, I got to that just real quick. I got to that through My Tasks. I went to archive. I selected the process or tasks that I was interested in. And after I did that, it would bring up this, which kind of gives me the details of it. And then I can click this process item and see some of these are many, many steps, but I can scroll through all the steps and see which one is it in progress at and who is next to that item. Question?
How do you find things that are older than 90 days?
That is a good question. I think if you use advanced search, I think it defaults to 90, but let's test this just really quickly. Let's say, whoops, I'm doing this backwards. Let's try something like from way back.
I would
That's true.
pass January on.
Yeah, that's true. Oh, you must select a date type. That's my problem. So let's say it with the created date. Okay, so let's try, sorry. So what was happening there, if you saw you're catching me doing this live. You got to select a type. And right now it's asking, well, do you want it by the due date, effective date, or created date? We'll say created date. And let's say in that case, let's go back just to test it. And let's just do January to today.
Days ago, right? Not today.
Well, what I was doing was the range between today and well over 90 days to see if it would give me all of them. Yeah, the comment here, and I think it's true, and I think our tests confirmed, I think if something's past 90 days and you're wondering where it's at, that's probably time for a personnel meeting, something like that. But yeah, right now there isn't a way from this view. I don't know if anyone else is familiar, anybody else. I'm sure there's a way to get that report, but you'd have to go digging through it with a custom report as opposed to just a view from a dashboard. Yeah.
And a note that I found out recently, because I went to back look at notifications are only the last 30 days.
And notifications are within the last 30 days. So there you go. So there is a bit of a timer, it seems like, on things. If you do need information, I think the safest bet is just to escalate your request. And it might need to even reach a data team to get to some data back that far. Yes. Right. So there are some data sets that you'll have access to for longer than this. Yeah, some of those. Yeah, financial. Yep, that's right. Okay. So that's processes. Let's jump. What do we got next? We're at 6 of 8, so we're getting there. Let's talk a little bit about reporting. And okay, so with reports, well, one thing I want to bring to your attention, kind of like what we did before. Real quick, just a call out. If I were to search for, there is an article, we'll link to it. But there's actually an article for viewing a process history that'll give you a little bit more detail even than what we talked about just as I demoed it. But there's an existing report that'll show you how to view where things stand in a process and things like this too. So these are the kinds of resources we'll send to you so you can get to these things again. Another one though that I wanted to show you was Workday reports. I searched for Workday reports, there's an article. And again, if I didn't know how to find that, I could hit enter. I could select articles, and I can see my top result is this Workday reports. This Workday reports article is going to give you a breakdown of much of what I'm just going to show you here in a second, but it's a way that you could reference both how to find reports, view them, what each of the icons mean, which I'm going to show you really quickly, filtering those reports. And then the reason I actually wanted to point this one out and why we will link to it when we'll have this on our website is that this article also features some popular reports across campus, things that others have found useful. And this will be updated as we go along. But you'll see like HR has some reports. There are some manager reports that finance reports that people have found useful. Some of them are directly linked. Some of them you might have to search depending on your role, whether you can access that report or not. But it's just a nice way to find some common reports. Otherwise, I can look for the thing that I'm looking for using this process. And then I can save those reports that I find to favorites. So going back, just so I can show you what a report looks like, most of you have probably opened a report at some point. But here in my favorites, I've got this favorite custom report. And I click on, in my case, this BYU My Team's time. I just want to see my student, what their status is. I might have a whole list of students. I pick the date range. It's going to default to this past pay period. And in this case, this is again a week old data. But I hit OK. And then this will bring up a report. In this case, this report is about as simple as you can get, right? Many of the reports that you will consume will look much more complex than this. But this gives you the basic features of a report and how to view. Is there anyone who hasn't navigated a report yet? Or is this all common? Has everyone seen a report? Or is there anybody? Don't ask 2 questions at once, Steve. Who has not navigated a report in Workday? Okay. So for your sake, just to give you a lay of the land, first of all, get in Sandbox, click away. Just click like your life depends on it. It'll be so fun. You're going to walk out of here loving Sandbox, be playing in Workday all day long. But if you open up a report, you'll have a view that looks like this. It'll usually have a table or some sort of matrix like this, and then I'll have some icons here at the top. Because I got to this report by accessing, I told it to search for a certain range. If I'm like, oh, this doesn't include what I need, without having to go back and restart the search, I can click on this little, what did somebody call
Bike
this?
chain.
Bike chain. That's my favorite. Yeah. Piano keys. Everyone has their own name for these icons. It's the Twinkie, the bike chain next to the Twinkie. You got this bike chain icon. That'll take me back to that original query so that I can adjust the parameters if I need it to without having to start over. Okay.
Hey, Steve, we got a question.
Oh, we have a question. Yes.
So we've run the thing where it says reports I can run before, and so it's supposed to give you a list of reports, but when we've tried to run some of them, they wouldn't work.
So if that, I don't know if someone can chime in there, that's typically some sort of either security misconfiguration or something like that. If it's a report that you're supposed to run and it shows up on that report of like report, the one you're referring to is.
Well, while he pulls that up, the BYU reports I can run is a hefty report. Sometimes it takes a minute to load. A couple of us have like 2,000 items on there. So reports, as they're created, there are custom reports, there's delivered reports, there's different kinds, and they're based on one, they assign who can see them based on a specific role. And then there's, if they populate information, the data is based on your security. So if there is, I'm going to say specifically a financial report that you're looking at, you're like, hey, maybe I used to be able to see things like this, or someone used to send me a report that had this financial information. It shows in BYU reports I can run and nothing is populating. It's probably based on the security, which has been reinforced by the new SDM model. So if you are unsure of what that is, go talk to your HR operations or finance operations specialist in your area. Really, they're trying to make it so that the data that's available to everyone is more secure because of all of the issues we've had in the past with data leaking. And so if you don't see information, your finance operations specialist or your HR operations specialist most likely has the ability to find that for you. If it's something that you think you should have access to, you can always talk to a business partner in your area. Steve can show you how to find that person if you're unsure. But if this particular report is awesome, you can like narrow it down to some things where you can go and find the names of reports, which is great. If you don't see it populate with information, it is based on security. You can talk to your business partner whether or not you should have that access to see that data. Sorry, one more question.
I guess a follow-up is the reports I can run, that the report itself is not based on my security. It just lists all the reports available.
It is there's 2 layers on reports, so it's based on your role. There may be someone else on campus who has your same position, who does have the extra security to be able to see that. So it's a 2-layer, actually I think it's like 4 layers if you think about data security on campus, but it's just multi-level. So because you can see it in here on this list, you have access to be able to see the name of the report. The actual data in it might be outside of your data security. So that's something we can look into. If you do see one, bring that up to your business partner. They can always request that for you if they think that you should have that.
That's right. Thank you. Thank you. Great question. So I just draw your attention then. This is what I'm glad this was brought up. There is a report itself that's just called, it's a custom report, BYU reports I can run. So if you're in that clicking mood that I was talking about, but you need something to click on, this is a report to actually orient you to the kinds of data that you have access to that are delivered. If there's custom information that you're looking for, that's where you'll probably want to reach out to a business partner or someone else to request. Okay. We're getting close on time. So what I'll do here, instead of, we will have a resource that will walk you through, but there's all sorts of things that you can do when you open a report. There are ways that you can click on fields to set conditions and filter them, to sort them. You can say, I'm looking for a certain report type, or whatever it may be. Columns are almost always clickable here at the top. And then there are icons here at the top that you can use to export to Excel. to adjust which columns are visible. If you're looking at a report, but it contains columns that you don't want, or you want to freeze a column, there are things that you can do to customize the report as it's presented in Workday, or you can export it, again, using that export to Excel function, which I think is found both here and there, or even export it to PDF for a printable version. Those are all available. We'll have a resource that will walk you through, so don't panic here. This was just to expose you to this, and then we'll have other references that you can use to navigate reports and find how to organize them and configure them to your liking. Okay. Let's jump then. Two more items is all. Let's talk about delegation, and we'll only be able to talk briefly on this topic. But just really quickly on the topic of delegation, that's one that's commonly come up across campus. We're using kind of every venue just to reinforce and remind folks. We had a great presentation in our last insiders meeting. We intend to hold additional delegation session to be able to provide further insights to your specific use cases. But just a couple of common items that we want to reinforce. One, just so you know what delegation is, delegation just simply means it's allowing for temporary assignment of some of the tasks that you perform to another person. And what essentially that does is like it says up here, it enables you, that person that you've delegated to perform tasks on your behalf. What we want to make sure everyone understands, and one of the common things we've seen is that with delegations, as people have gone into the delegation mode, which I'll show you here just in a second, is that they'll oftentimes delegate everything. And what they're essentially, the best analogy I heard from our security specialist, Patrick, our security lead, was that it's essentially giving the keys to your house to your friend. And it's highly likely if you're leaving on vacation, because that's what this is intended for. It's intended for short-term delegation. It's not intended to just, hey, your job is now, my job is now your job. It's intended for, I'm going to be out of office, or I'll be in some short-term leave, maybe maternity leave or something else, and I need someone to help with my tasks. I can hand them the keys, but like that house analogy, just keep in mind, some of your neighbors may go right in, water the plants like you asked them to, and walk right out. Someone else, though, might go into your fridge and say, well, what kinds of food does Steve like? And other things, right? So when you're delegating, you just need to be careful that what you delegate is what you intend for them to do, and that they know the thing that you're delegating is that very specific thing. I'm going to show you here in just a second. But just keep in mind, all active employees can delegate. So if you are an active employee with a Workday account, you can access these settings, which I'm going to show you. Managers can also delegate on behalf of the people that report to them. So if I needed to help someone who reports to me delegate theirs, there was an emergency and they're out of office and I need to delegate their responsibilities to someone, I can do that. And there are also campus administrators. If there's an emergency and you need to delegate something or get access to something, you can escalate that through support. But let me just show you just briefly, and then we'll touch on one other item and then we'll finish. How I access delegations, I can do that through the search. I can see my delegations report. And if I don't remember that by searching delegations, the other place I can access this is in my tasks. The way I think of this is if I'm delegating tasks, I'm going to go to the task box, right? So I come into my tasks, and down here in the bottom, you'll see this manage delegations option. If I click on that, it will bring up a report, essentially, just like we saw in other reports that look like this, with my current delegations. Well, right now I haven't delegated anything, so all of my responsibilities are still with me. But if I wanted to, let's say I know that I'm going to be gone for Pioneer Day, and I know at that time that there are some things that are going to be waiting on me that are urgent. I need someone to be able to handle that for me while I'm gone. Maybe that's those approvals for like an expense report or something. I can click on Manage Delegations. It'll bring up another table here. And I can add, and I'm gonna race through this. We have an article that will walk you through step by step. So do not worry. Oh no, wait, can you do that one more time? We will show you how to do this. But just to give you a heads up, there's a begin date. You'll set, starting from, it can't be earlier than today, obviously, but if I were doing Pioneer Day, maybe it's the 23rd. through the weekend. I can then search for who I want to delegate that task for. Again, we'll use my trusty student that works with me. Be careful here because you can delegate to lots of different people. You'll see that I had the option. I can even delegate to to more than one person who can help with that task. So you can see that there were people from our campus that I can delegate to. So just watch who you're delegating to, who you're handing your house key to. Then over here, once I've selected the person, I can start a process on my behalf or actually do the process. Start just means it's anything that typically would have been initiated by me. Maybe it's starting a recruiting process, or maybe it's starting an expense report. If I want somebody to be able to start that on my behalf, that's what this field is for. Otherwise, to do the whole task for me, you'll see these radio buttons here. And this is what I was talking about. It's the one thing I'll call attention to, and then I'll leave you guys to look at the resource to find the steps when you do this for yourself. But you'll notice there's this option for all business processes. If I select that, what I'm saying is that all the security and things I have access to, including my worker profile, my compensation tab, everything, I'm delegating to someone so that they can access it too. Make sense? So that's why we're on campaign to try to draw attention. We're trying to get the word out. Just be careful with what you're doing here because you might be giving away more than what you intended to. Typically, the better process would be to click on the second item for business process. And then I might look up like an expense. I just typed in expense rep. Maybe for expense report items, I want them to have access to that and be able to do that on my behalf. Make sense? The other item, the last one that I point to here, the only other item is just this little tick box. Retain access to delegated tasks within my tasks. If I leave that checked, which is probably what you'll want to do, just leave it checked. It means that it will go to my delegate, any expense report approvals and things, but it'll also go to me. And whoever gets there first and does it, that's who's going to see it. But it'll still show in my archive and everything that this has been done, right? If I untick this, the only instance that I can think of off the top of my head where I would unselect it is if someone is truly on like medical leave or like some extended leave. And for legal reasons, maybe they're not supposed to be working during that time. I don't want to necessarily ping them throughout. So I'm the true delegate for while they're gone. I'm operating as them for while they're gone. I could see myself unticking that box. But otherwise I leave that. So just as a heads up, I just wanted to bring that to your awareness. This option's here. It's intended for short-term use. There are instructions in an article that we will link to that will show you how to set this up and manage those settings for yourself. The only item I would bring to your attention to close that thread is we have our security team that's going through audits right now, and they're auditing they're basically going through reports to see how are people using delegation and making sure that, and just evaluating, are we using it as intended, or are we kind of distributing delegations across campus maybe in ways that maybe we didn't intend, so that we can find any of those instances where maybe we were giving away too much of the house. Okay. All right. Last thing before we go, we've got just a couple minutes. So the last thing I just wanted to bring to your attention was how to get help. We've already showed you the website. If you remember nothing else, at least remember the website, workday.byu.edu, because it'll typically get you to where you need to be. And so let's just jump back just to show that. So I'm back on the website and I need help. Steve, your presentation was great. I still have other questions. I've got other issues. Let me show you this help center one more time. So again, get started. That's a primer in Workday. Just how do I get around? What are the basics of Workday? I can take this little mini module course and get the basics. Learning has a little bit more advanced training. It still contains, if I were to click on that, it contains the other Workday topics that we included at the beginning of the year when we were going live, but it's still subject to being updated, and we'll have new materials that will help with some of the topics and the things that you do in Workday day to day. Your best bet right now for getting help, just quick, would be to jump to articles. That link takes you right there. So right from Workday, oops, it's gonna have me log in now to the real Workday session, not Sandbox. But it'll jump right to Help Center. And this Help Center will give me an index of all of the articles I have access to, which should be practically all of them that have been developed. You can see there have been hundreds developed. And so I can go and find just a master list. If I've got questions on expense, I can click on expense. I'll see that there's a handful here, but if I scroll down and there's nothing I can do to change this, there's this view more. So if you don't see what you're looking for here, scroll, because you'll see the math doesn't add up. These 5 plus 9 does not, I mean, that should be 14. So it'll only show the top 5 here. But if I click on view more, it'll show all of them. Okay. So that's how I can see articles. If the article doesn't get me what I need, my next step here is I can create a case. And I wanted to show you actually from just how to do that. That'll be how we close. So that if you need help, you are not alone. You can get help. There are people who can help you. And what I'm going to do, because mine's not going to be super helpful because I'm a case administrator. So I want to show it from your view. Let's pick somebody from, I'm going to pick a friend from the Marriott School. So let's say I'm a faculty member, I'm Simon, and I need help. I can go through the website like I just did and click on Help Center, create case. The other thing I can do right from within Workday is actually go into help from the menu. That's what that help option is. It takes me to the same spot, Help Center. And if I need to create a case, if I need someone to help me, I can click Create Case down here at the bottom. Did everybody see how I did that? Just down here at the bottom, there's a Create Case. And then it'll have me select a case. What it's going to do, it's going to have me select a case type. I can give it a title and then describe my issue or question. But what I wanted to draw your attention to last of all is the most common, I mean, when you scroll through here, if you know that you have a question about a time off issue or things like this, there are different types that you can search through. But I wanted to draw your attention to 2 in particular that will be useful to you. And that is, if I were working in an area, for instance, I chose Simon, he's faculty member in the Marriott School of Business. I would actually look for my area now. And this is only going to show up because I'm logged in right now as Simon. But I would go down and find, oh, Marriott School of Business. There's the school. And underneath it, there are 2 custom types that are unique to my area. In your case, you might be in the humanities. Well, you would look, instead of looking for Marriott School, which would not appear for you, you would look for humanities. And under humanities, you would see options that look just like this. You'd see one that shows the area finance team and the area's HR team. And so if I had an HR related question, or I had a question about hiring or something like that, and I worked in the business school, I could select this HR team, create a title, and this case will get routed not to just the general support specialists. It'll get relayed to the specialists that help my area, who know my policies and things like that. Make sense? So when you're going to get help, just as you're creating a case, my recommendation, choose, I mean, if you already know the area and it's very specific, you can find the area. But if it's a general question about HR or finance and you need help, or you need a custom report, you're not getting the information you need and you need help. If you go find your area and then select, and in this case, you can see even from the search, like if I started to type here, Marriott, in this case, you can see it brings up the 2 types. So you could do the same for your area and find the specialists who are closest to you, who can help you most specifically with your need. Okay? That's it for today. I know that you probably have additional questions. We'll stick around for a few minutes if you want to come and ask some questions. We'll stick around. But watch for on the website, back there on our Workday website, right on the homepage. Shortly, we will have links right here in our workshop to the things we talked about today, so you can review them back at your desk. Steve was showing me that favorites thing. How do I do that again? Or reports or whatever. We'll have links directly to it. Okay? Thanks so much for coming, you guys. We really appreciate your time and attention. We'll stick around. If there are people online who have additional questions, we'll stick around. But otherwise, you're dismissed and hope you have a wonderful day.